Yep, Ben's here. Okay, we are
Yeah.
live. So welcome everyone to another town hall. Oh, I've still got you spotlighted. Rick, let me take care of that. There we go. Okay. So welcome. Let me just get my windows organized here. I'll go ahead and do a screen share as usual, and we'll get started here. Okay, so for those of you who maybe aren't regulars, I know we have at least one new member with us today. Adam, welcome. You'll kind of see, these are the way we do these. They are being live streamed to YouTube, so just as a way of kind of recording them as we go. So some people watch on YouTube, some people join in the meetings. Anyone is welcome to do either. I share my screen for the notes. Ben, are you able to help me with those notes today?
Yep.
Excellent. And then you'll notice in the lower right part of my screen is the YouTube chat. So if anybody puts things in the chat on the YouTube channel, they'll pop up there. And if you guys can help me keep an eye on that so that we don't ignore them, that would be appreciated. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through the usual agenda here, starting today with an introduction. If you don't mind, Adam, maybe you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit about how you found us and what your interests are.
Sure. And Ben, maybe some guidance from you. In speaking with you earlier this week, you asked me to put together a brief intro. I've got a couple of slides. I don't know if that would be appropriate here or if you'd like me to just speak off the cuff.
John, I think you might be muted. I'm not hearing you. I just want to say I'm happy to take a chunk of the meeting later for a presentation. If you think that's better to do a quick intro now, what would you like to do?
I think that's the way to go. I'll say just briefly that Adam reached out to us. He's got a terrific background. Ben and I spoke to him yesterday. He will have some interesting perspectives both on what he's done in the past and what he thinks might be possible in the future. So let's give him some space later in the meeting and just do a quick round of introductions now.
Wonderful. So I'm just,
Sure.
as you can see, I'm adding it to our agenda down here. So it's going to be our second discussion topic after we get through these other miscellaneous things. And so we will definitely have time to get into your slides then. But for now, just a little introduction of yourself and your background, maybe, Adam.
You got it, and I apologize. John, I mentioned I'm going to be, I've got a hard stop in about 25 minutes here.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to rearrange that a little bit, but you go ahead and introduce yourself.
You got it. So hi, everyone. Sorry for the long derailment there, but my name is Adam Jennings. I am a physical therapist and a organizational development expert based in the Kansas City area. I have spent a number of years working in amputee rehabilitation specifically, and in my years since leaving the clinical space, I have built up a stronger background in change management and process design. I currently work in the health IT world, working on improving collaboration opportunities and improving efficiencies and process for individuals at my current employer. What I would really love to do, in just a little bit, I can show you some of my thoughts here, but I'm very excited to partner with e-NABLE and see how my background as a clinician, specifically working in the rehabilitation of amputees, and also my network of contacts could be of use to accomplishing some of our broader mission and goals here. So thank you for bringing me on board.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, that's very exciting. I'm sure John and Ben have already told you that we've been looking for people like you for quite some time. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Second, because of what you said before about your limited time, I think it's best to just go ahead right now and have you go ahead and do your presentation, because we never know how long these other miscellaneous things take.
Yeah. And I apologize for that.
No, not at all. These are flexible. So please just go ahead and share what you have. And I'm going to stop my screen share so you can share yours.
Okay, sure. Let me go ahead and pull that.
One other thing while you're doing that, so you're using phone for audio. I was wondering if there's any way to get a little more volume. Can you maybe move the phone a little closer to you?
I'm using.
Oh, you're using the headset. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I think that's a little better. I think that might be the best we can do then. That's fine. I'll turn my
speaker. Here. I think I can do a little better. What if we try?
It's sounding pretty good now. I think we're fine now, Adam.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, I will just use the headset then. You still hear me? Just making sure.
Yeah, we're good.
course.
Oh, now we lost you.
Here, I'll just do it this way.
Okay.
I'll just hold it on here. Yep, my name is Adam Jennings, physical therapist from Kansas City. Let me advance through here. So I completed my doctorate in PT at the University of Missouri coming up on a decade ago. I completed my Red Cross certification as an amputee specialist in 2015, and I spent a number of years in the clinic working in neurorehabilitation as the sort of resident lower extremity amputee gait specialist. After leaving the clinical space, I began working in electronic health records and started working toward an MBA with an emphasis in change management and organizational development. Since leaving the clinical space, I have worked as a subject matter expert, an OD manager, and currently I am a manager and process improvement specialist for a healthcare IT company based in Ohio. So I initially reached out to e-NABLE in June of 2017. I was really interested. I had just left the clinic, and I was really interested in continuing to use my background as a physical therapist. I also had access to a really swanky makerspace at my employer, which had a number of 3D printers and engraving tools and laser etching tools. It was a great way to break up the day while I was working on campus when I wasn't traveling. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, at least I hope you can see on the screen. Actually, I didn't confirm. Can you all see my screen?
No, sorry, Adam, we're not seeing your screen yet.
Shoot.
So you can go ahead and share screen, and you should have that. There you go.
Dang, I didn't show my slides before. All right, can you see it now?
Yep, we see it.
Okay,
And I just have to say,
here's my background.
Since you paused, Adam, I just have to say that's something else that e-NABLE definitely can use is a lot of process improvement. So I was glad to hear that too.
Well, perfect. I can, happy to be a Swiss Army knife for you then. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see my first ever print. That was a finger, I want to say, from a raptor hand. It's been so long now, I don't remember exactly which model it was.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun putting the hand together. Unfortunately, though, I didn't get to the point of submitting it as a test, and my communication fell off as my schedule began to get a little bit more robust, we'll say. As a result, that plus the pandemic, I sort of followed e-NABLE online and watched what y'all were doing, but was more of a silent fan than anything else. One thing that I was really acutely interested in doing initially was, and this was really where my excitement started, was developing some kind of marketable event, some kind of opportunity for corporate spaces that have these maker labs on hand to use those resources to have corporate team building, which seemed at the time like an opportunity for e-NABLE to maybe either do fundraising or improve outreach, or if nothing else, establish some new chapter sites. So where do I see myself having some impact here? I'm really interested in working with the leadership and working with the community to improve our impact. In my initial conversations in the forum a couple of weeks ago, I was initially interested in re-engaging with e-NABLE in finding ways to use my current resources to begin printing hands for kiddos, which is really what I wanted to do. But it became apparent to me right out the gate that we've got a lot of talent. We've got a lot of people with energy and resources and time, but we don't have as many potential recipients, or at least not available to people sort of in this nebulous network here. Maybe more so in the specific chapter sites, but less so from this larger scale. So seeing how we can utilize this energy in this team, this group of individuals, to try to increase that impact. And I've got a couple of more specific ideas about how to do that. Then I'd also like to offer some education. I've got, I built up a lot of student loans, getting a lot of info about how to care for amputees. So I'd like to use that and disseminate that as best I can.
I have spent a number of years working with individuals in becoming accommodated to their prostheses and using them in their daily lives, how to improve compliance and how to improve quality of life. I know that there is a lot of really strong engineering knowledge here, which is something I definitely don't have. So seeing how we can marry that up, I think could be really effective in improving the utility of these tools that we're creating effectively. I'd also like to get a little bit more into the mindset of the amputee, see how, generally what the impact of having a hand or having a leg can result in, especially for a kiddo who finds himself with a limb difference. I also want to make sure that you all have access to my network of contacts. I have physical and occupational therapists, physicians and surgeons, prosthetists, and potential corporate partners in my Rolodex that I want to, obviously I need to reach out to them, but I have a feeling that there is a lot of interest in these folks and finding opportunities for engagement. And then finally, to Jeremy's point, not only am I a clinician, but I'm also an OD specialist. So finding ways to help you all through process mapping, designing and improving tools and avenues for closer collaboration and communication can be something I bring to the table as well. One last thing, I think I've been sort of spinning my wheels a little bit, trying to generate some ideas about where, some initiatives that I might like to be a part of, things that I think that I could assist with. Obviously, I'd want to touch base with you to see what you all are really interested in and where the energy currently lies. In terms of getting things like this done. I'd love to see how we can leverage our network to improve our impact. Love to build upon the current strengths that I've observed here, that motivated volunteer base. I think that there is an excellent mission and really specific and attainable goals. And using all of that to try to build more of an accessible on-ramp so that people aren't reinventing the wheel every time, and seeing how we can make this more of a process that can be repeated instead of having to generate things net new each time they come up. And then some other ideas there, really just working with partners, expanding networks and improving the education opportunities available to this community are all things that I'm very excited about having the chance to do. With that, I know we don't have a ton of people on the call, but I can close this out here. And any questions or anything that I can explain in more detail, or should I turn it over to the team?
I will say that it wasn't clear to me from our conversation yesterday how much good due diligence and observation you were doing of the community. I think that you've got a really good bead on our current status, and I think that'll be very useful. I think that you've defined some really good areas for exploration, and as I said yesterday, I want to encourage you to think about ways of exploring particular initiatives that you think might plausibly be a good fit for you and e-NABLE.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo some of that. I felt like you really hit on exactly the right points of where we need to be focusing. It sounds very familiar. It's things that we've been talking about, though you, I think, worded it better given your background. And I could not agree more with you about there being so much talent in this community as far as individuals and chapters go. But what I think we're lacking, at least in this region, is leaders. And that's why I'm so excited to see you here, because you're exactly the kind of person that we need. That's the sort of thing that, it's about connecting the dots. We have all these wonderful pockets of skill and energy within the community, but connecting those different individuals and groups is something that we haven't done a good enough job with. And so I love that I'm seeing you looking at, connecting those dots and connecting and networking and outreach and bringing all of that together, because that's what we haven't done enough of. I'm guessing John and or Ben sort of already shared with you that we've been in this process for some time now of sort of seeking new leadership and getting others to sort of step up and sort of take leadership in some of these areas. John, has there been any talk about making some introductions here with that that group that's sort of coming together?
Yes, but we should be explicit about it. There are several people in particular who have been involved with e-NABLE in the past. Ian Roy at Brandeis, who we spoke to you about yesterday, and Eric Bubar at Marymount University, and Jeff Powell in one of the Carolinas, I never know which, wherever the Research Triangle is, on the Helping Hands organization. And he, by the way, is now an MD, but he started as a college student e-NABLE volunteer. And those three guys are with you could make a really interesting sort of next generation of leadership. You're considerably younger than some of us, and you've each already done a number of things that are quite relevant. So yes, we will arrange a meeting of that sort. But I do have a couple of other points I wanted to make, Evan. One is we are a duocracy, and that means that leadership emerges from people who have taken something on and made it work. So, before we talk about an organizational structure, which is something is really well worth reviewing and coming up with, I do think that it might be helpful for you to take a piece that you can do semi-independently without getting the entire community on board, or even the other leaders necessarily on board, both in order to get some hands-on experience with what it's like in working in this kind of an environment, and to sort of establish your duocratic credentials. One of the things we did, we've gone through a complicated evolution, but there was a period of time when we tried to bring in professional management, and it turned out it was not a good mix for the community as it was at the time. Now, that was in our early days, but it taught us some lessons. And so, this is the old story about culture change, but it's not going to be culture change as you might advise a CEO or a board of directors about how to do it. I think our culture is well established now, which means that it may well be due for some evolution, but it's not going to be culture change from above. It's going to be culture change through the development of new models. So to me, the interesting issue is going to be, once you've had a chance to talk to a number of people in e-NABLE, including the ones we've just mentioned. I mentioned Maria last time. What particular piece, and I'm hoping it's going to be outreach either to medical professionals or recipients, do you take on as your own particular quest? And that will change some opportunities and facts on the ground and create a good basis for higher level discussions about the community overall.
And just because that is such a key area and has been, let's take a moment to highlight that. I don't know if you've had a chance to poke around in e-NABLE Web Central, which at least for now is still the primary matching platform. But here's the problem that we run into, and you go to browse cases, you may have seen this already. First of all, sorry, I'm going to go back to our admin screen here. People don't see this, but here's our stats. I just want to point out that we have over 5,500 users in this system. So there's a lot of people in here. Most of those are volunteers. Now, with that in mind, we'll go to the browse cases view, and looking at this on a global scale, I'm sure you can see pretty quickly, there's just not as many as you would think in here. And as you start to dig into the cases that are here, you start to see that a lot of the ones that are left available are ones that either are more challenging cases that people might be hesitant to take on, or they're cases where a bunch of people have offered to help and the person just isn't responding. So the case is just stuck. So in other words, there aren't a lot of valid, good cases ready for people to help with. So I just wanted to point out that has been a challenge for a long time, is that imbalance of having lots of people ready to help, not enough people that find their way in to ask for help. Either they don't know about us, or they don't find their way to e-NABLE Web Central, or some other part of the process breaks down. But I just wanted to echo what John was saying, that outreach would have a huge impact because we have all those volunteers just anxious to help,
Yeah, and I did notice that. And my initial thought was something like, I'm assuming that these are primarily pediatric amputees or pediatric cases with the congenital limb difference. But my initial case is these people are going to have had some contact with, if not a physical therapist, then certainly a physician. If nothing else, the fact that I've got PT after my name would allow me to contact clinics at the behest of the patient to say,
That's
hey,
right.
is this someone that we can reach out to and try to get the ball rolling on getting
That's a
some
very good
metrics and getting some. I think that we've got we already have some things today where we can start getting these cases closed out. But beyond just getting access, I think it's also expanding reach because there are 30 million, I think, when I last checked, pediatric amputees globally who don't have ready access to prosthetic services. So, domestically, there's a lot of work that can be done, but I think globally too, trying to leverage that network that's already in place to see how we can expand the reach here is another worthy goal.
That's great.
But,
Well,
I'm excited.
I am too. I don't think we could find a better person for this because I think as you go through this, you'll discover, because of your process background, you'll discover other places in our process where it's breaking down. For example, we know that the e-NABLE Web Central platform itself is probably too complicated and might be scaring off users so that they're kind of dropping out of the process. It might be too hard to find some of our informational resources online, so people are having a hard time finding where they go next. So you'll be able to identify some of those challenges as you go through this and help us to figure out how we need to fix some of those things. So this is very exciting.
I agree. I promise I'm more excited than you are.
I think it might be, so Tanya Lurch and Lindsay Wells come up as other people we should mention and arrange a conversation with you. They're
Say that again, Tanya Lurch and who else?
Lindsay Wells, both of whom have been involved in K-12 education. As I think about it, there are enough people at this point, since maybe 6 months ago, Jeremy and I got serious about saying, look, we should really recognize that there are newer, younger people who might well want to put their own imprint on the way we do things. And we've now, I think, got an interesting group of people with complementary skills and interests. And I think at this point, it might make sense to just sort of map out those areas of focus, get the people together just so that they feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling each other.
That's exactly what I was thinking, John. As I put the names down here in our notes, I was thinking we would go through and talk about what area each one of these individuals is focusing on, maybe what their initial initiative is, to your point of, kind of starting with one thing. So having a meeting with all of those people to hash that out would be a really good next step.
A question is whether we should do that during a town hall meeting or during a focus follow-up or off the record, as a, just as a conversation. I'm not really sure about that.
I'm open to whatever. Something tells me maybe doing that one, off recording, just so that everyone feels free to speak their mind might be best. I don't know. Anyone else have a thought?
Well, I do know that I would, if we did it not as a recorded webcast, etc., I'd want to put out a call to let everyone know that they're genuinely welcome.
Absolutely.
The only question is whether conversation might be more fluid if people felt comfortable speaking frankly and off the record. So
yeah, and like I said, I really am fine with whatever. If you want to do it in a town hall, we can. If you want to do a focus follow-up, I'm fine with any of those. You guys just tell me what you think would work best. Might
Well, I'd
depend on
like to throw my
availability
hat over
too. You might have to reach
Oh,
out to all
sorry.
these people just to find out when they could even do something. You know, it
Yeah,
might be.
And I apologize. I've got to hop off the call.
okay.
Yeah.
I've got to
Adam,
yell.
I'm really
your,
looking forward
your
to our
work is
next
done
discussion.
here. You've done a great job. Thanks for visiting us, and we will be following up.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, team. Have a good day.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
So I think I do know how, or at any rate, I have an idea of how we might proceed on this, and that is to report on this town hall meeting, say that as a follow-up, we would like e-NABLE's potential leaders to be involved in another get to know each other and discussion about their respective initiatives, and open up the question to those people about whether they would like to do it where they don't have to think about two audiences, or whether they think it should be done transparently, because I'm eager to make sure that we don't fail to include and expose what we're talking about to all parties.
Agreed.
But I want them to be
For that
comfortable.
matter, you're right. We do try to be very transparent. So maybe it's best to keep it, recorded. It's whatever the participants feel most comfortable with, I think. It sounds like the next step is an email to all the names we have listed here with a link to this section of our YouTube video, asking them to maybe take a look at it and then give us some feedback. Would you like to do that, John, or would you, Ben?
Either would be fine. I think maybe, John, if you want to, I can draft something and you can send it out, or vice versa.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Ben, you may know a few other people. For example, Thierry or Zainab come to mind as sort of internationalists who might have a perspective as well. So, all right, Ben and I will take it, Jeremy. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, I did hear back from Everton recently. He's interested in meeting up next week and giving an update on all their activities in Brazil, which it's been quite a while. But
I'm sorry, who was that, Ben?
Everton.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, well, he might be just the right guy, because he also has project management and organizational interests.
And you said this was an update. Next week is an update on what?
And basically an update on their platform that he's been, I think, chipping away with his team at. They've got an app and this whole infrastructure online to organize cases. I'm hoping that we can, I saw your email this morning to Ed Grieg. I'm hoping that we can be able to pass along some of those activities to the meeting with Ed Grieg as well.
That would be great. Yeah, at the very least, make sure he gets to see that recording. Okay, we got to back up here real quick, go through our action items, and then I think we'll just have time for a few topics, which is perfect for today. So first one was for me to email Ed to talk about next steps on the other project we've been discussing, which is evaluating our online assets and matching platform. But I definitely think that's going to get wrapped up with these other things that we're talking about, and we'll benefit from the input of these other folks. I did email Ed this morning to ask about what next steps would be and when they might want to join us. So waiting to hear back there. I did go ahead and put a Lumio discussion together, let it run for, I don't know, I think a week and a half. Everyone seemed pretty positive about the idea of reimbursing for these extra expenses. So I went ahead and started the vote going today. And it looks like we already have a few votes. I just started that this morning. So hopefully you all have an invitation to that. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that part of the discussion was, hey, are there less expensive options for these things? And as I responded today, we absolutely should be looking into alternate places where we can do our hosting and alternate services for our transactional emails. I think there are less expensive options. It's just, I only recently became aware that we were exceeding the limits of our grant from Microsoft. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact I did meet this past week with Evan, and we switched both of these accounts over to an e-NABLE credit card. Thanks for setting that up, John. So moving forward, any overage expenses from Azure or from the Mailgun email service we use, both of those will be just going straight out of the e-NABLE fund. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we can probably get those costs down or maybe eliminate them if we find different ways of, or different services to use. So I don't think I'm the one to take that on right now, but somebody with a technical bent, definitely there's still a project to be done there, finding the right services and then maybe a migration. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this one off. Proposal is now running. Yes, John did invite Adam Jennings. Thank you. That was a very exciting discussion. And that's the one we just added for you guys to email out the other folks. So on we go. Summary of metrics. I don't think there was anything unusual this week, except for a longer than usual average session duration. I had some people spending more time than usual on the hub. Okay, so had a couple of interesting posts this week that I wanted to look at. Benjamin, a new member, is seeking help for somebody that is missing a finger right down to the knuckle. Here's a photo. So he's missing that finger, that entire finger there. And there's some interesting discussion. There was initially talk about the nick finger. Somebody said they don't think that the nick finger would work because you need to have something, for it to, fit onto, I guess. And I didn't go through all of this. There's a lot of good discussion, but the reason I thought this was interesting was they were talking about, where was it? Let's see, Nate joined in and pointed him to possibly the prayer hand. I don't remember why. Oh, actually, okay, I remember now. This wasn't the one I was thinking of. So there's another post from Benjamin that I'm thinking of that I'll get to next. This one is just an interesting discussion about finger possibilities. And I guess the nick finger maybe not being the best option as it is, but Sandra here talks about maybe redesigning the bottom TPU part of the nick finger by integrating some kind of a brace part. But then it looks like Nate joined in and thought that he might have something that could be used. So anyone have any other thoughts of what might work for this kind of a finger without much of a stump there? Rick, we're not hearing you.
Nate is probably talking about this one.
Hold on, let me get you on screen here. Show me again.
Maybe this is the one Nate's talking about.
Okay, and what is it at the base? Wait, hold that up again.
Yeah, this is a knuckle adapter, but we're also working on a partial hand that goes across like palm and around the back. And right now we have this hand. This actually is my hand, and it even has my fingerprints.
Okay.
And what we do is we actually saw the fingers off to make it look like whatever the issue is that the person has. And then we mutilate this poor hands, and then we build a socket right over it. And then our fingers actually, whatever the finger of choice, we're using the new one that we'll be probably announcing to you guys next week. And they bolt right in and work. It's
okay. So cool. Then I'm not following all the details, but that's okay. We'll wait for your presentation. But since Nate is involved on this thread, should I assume that he's kind of pointing this guy?
Nate's working with me.
Right. So, but he's already involved on the thread that I just shared. Yeah. So, does that mean he's probably going to point him to that new design when it's available?
He hasn't seen the new design yet.
Oh, Nate hasn't? Okay.
No, Nate's kind of excited because what I'm doing is I'm taking one of Nate's builds and I'm putting our new fingers on Nate's build. So his fingers, we're removing his fingers and putting on ours. So what we're trying to do is make these new fingers that we're designing compatible with backward compatible with all the hands. So
all right, so then maybe this section of the video is worth sharing on that comment thread there, Ben, if you get a chance.
I think what we're going to do though is probably want to do a show and tell with everybody involved and see if it'll work for this person.
Exactly. At least maybe we can invite him to that show and tell when it's ready.
Yeah. So we're going to mutilate this hand to make it look like whoever our test subject is.
Okay.
It won't be an exact fit for him, but what we can do is we make dummies. This is just how we do it here. And then we thermoform it after we mutilate it. And that's how we make the sockets.
Nice.
Eager to see that technique.
Me too.
Okay.
We actually just thermoformed a dog shoulder.
Oh, wow.
No, this is what they kind of look like. It'll be the same process, but this is a dog's shoulder that we just then snap on the appliance.
Nice.
And it all happens. What's nice is it happens in like 1 minute. It's just poof, it's done.
Yeah,
No
thermoforming
printing.
is great.
I
Right,
think
another
you're
one
onto
I wanted
something
to
really
look at.
interesting there.
Wait, did you have something else, John?
I think Rick is on to a really interesting technique. I'm interested in hearing about it. B, Jeremy, I don't know if it's on your agenda, but we should talk about Nate's proposal in Lumio. I'm delighted to hear that you and Nate are working together, Rick. But Nate also has a project in Lumio that we should discuss briefly today.
Got it. Thank you, John.
One last thing to trigger the fingers. You guys might get a kick out of this. I don't know if any of you guys are archers.
No.
We've been using these to trigger the fingers. They go around your wrist. Super cheap. They're like $7. And these are the things like when you're an archer, you push this button and it lets loose the string.
All right, so Rick,
And
I want to
because
see
they're so cheap-
I want to see the full presentation, and if you don't mind, I'm going to move us on because we got a
Sorry.
lot to get through in a short amount of time here. That's okay. I want to see the full detail. So let's move on here though to this other post, which was from Lawrence, and he's got a daughter, an 18-year-old daughter that lost her fingers and thumb, and he's trying to make devices for her, and he's finding that she's experiencing a lot of discomfort with the standard designs. To try to operate these wrist actuated devices is causing some pain for her. And so he was wondering if maybe something bionic or something with some kind of powered elements might be helpful. And there was a lot of good discussion about it here, and I'll let you guys read through the details for yourself if you're interested. I was glad to see Eric Bubar getting involved here, but the main thing that was the reason for me sharing this one is as you scroll down here, you'll see that there's a lot of really interesting things being shared here. And I, again, want to call the attention to the need, I think, for somebody to be, I don't know what we would call it, but somebody to kind of monitor all of the discussion activity that happens on the hub and be kind of an archaeologist to dig out these wonderful links and get them into something where they don't get lost. Like, for example, here's some instructions on how to hook up an FSR, which is a force sensitive resistor. And, you've got all these wonderful instructions. Yeah. And there's another one a little bit further down where he actually links to something on Amazon. Here's a force sensitive resistor that he bought for $11. I never knew these things existed or were that cheap. And it just occurs to me that, somebody that's actually gathering all these wonderful links and resources and getting them into some kind of an organized wiki or something would be a wonderful thing to have. So that was why I wanted to highlight this one. I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions on that one. Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
I do, in terms of how to access some of this later on, I do try to tag every post that I can with different topics. And if you look at that post, the one that we just looked at, so it's tagged with device information, adaptive community, myoelectric, bionic, and customization. So if anybody in the future is looking and they want to zoom into any of those topics, they can either click on those links at the top, or they can use the search filter, and that'll take the whole archive of posts and boil it down to just those topics. And they can actually, in the filter, you can additively be putting in, so you've got myoelectric, but now you can put in customization, and now you've got myoelectric customization. It's going to filter it twice. So just the posts that have both of those. It seems like it's the best way for us to get a long lens of what's going on within the hub. It does mean that people have to dig through the comments, but
no, you're right. That's a really good first step. I'd say if we're able at some point to take the next step and actually have somebody that organizes this, that would be an improvement. But for now, you're right. That's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Right. And it could be something where people, for example, what you're talking about with Eric Buvar, those are links that would be great for the bionic space. So basically summarizing that whole thread, putting some of those links as a post in the bionic space would make it much easier. That could even become part of their wiki.
Exactly. That could even be a way of approaching it, that maybe, you try to get it to where each of these sort of spaces that's focusing on a certain area has somebody in that space that's kind of, you know, I don't want to say necessarily the owner or the leader, but somebody that's monitoring things that might be outside of that space and pulling in those links and that sort of thing. You might have somebody doing that for each space.
It's a great idea.
All right, well, let's move on. I want to make sure we have time to get to some of our discussion topics. One more that I wanted to highlight, another one from Benjamin, and this one was it was just an interesting discussion about non-uniform scaling. He's asking about, you know, hey, if I'm scaling, you know, one way but not another way in Blender, is that going to affect the hinges? And of course the answers were yes. That's, you know, you're going to end up with oval shaped, you know, screw holes instead of circular screw holes, which is why we've always, you know, been trying to get to these parametric designs that let us get around that. But I was actually, you know, surprised by this. Christophe came in and said, well, try the kinetic hand because it's possible to freely scale on all axes. And I said, wait, the kinetic hand is available with parametric scaling? And I thought, no, it's not. But I understand what he's saying, because if you think about how the kinetic hand works with those hinges and the shape of those hinges, if you scale things non-uniformly, those hinges are going to scale the same way. So I think he's right that the kinetic hand would work with non-uniform scaling, even though it's not parametric, just because of the way things fit together. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I thought that was actually a really interesting point.
I guess that's possible, because the joints are much more compliant than if you need a mechanical coupling.
Yeah, because you're not really using the
question
hardware.
how far you can go with that, but
it's true.
It's true.
It's true. Well, maybe we'll hear back from Benjamin if he tries that, but I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to point that out, that if somebody needs that non-uniform scaling, maybe the kinetic hand is an option for that. I had never thought of it that way. Okay, cool. On we go. As far as upcoming events, I'll just point out that today is our focus follow-up, and then I will ask Ben to share anything else he wants to. Let's see, what are we at here? I guess there's probably not much left this month. Is that the last?
Actually, yeah, if you go to the hub calendar,
okay,
we've got an updated. I didn't go back and change it on the So if you click on the focus follow-up.
Oh, this one.
Today.
Okay.
Yep. So I've updated that with Rick's presentation, and we'll hold the presentation for the veterinary surgeon and Rick to a later date.
All right. Very good. Got a couple of interviews with Rick coming up. One of those is today. Another one of those will be coming up in the weeks to come through 3D Universe Untethered. We're going to talk about all the work he's been doing with MIDI and incorporating that into assistive devices. That'll be a fun one. Okay, so I just captured a list here that we've been talking about as far as these potential leaders. We're going to reach out to them and others who might be interested.
Jeremy, I just want to say you should add Rick Williams, PhD,
yes,
to that
please.
list of leaders.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is by no means a complete list, so others are welcome as well. Okay, open help desk tickets, and I think we'll try to keep this short because it looks like I might have fallen behind a bit here. I noticed there's, I'm not even going to look at the ones that it looks like haven't been addressed yet, because we'll have to look at those first. Harris County Public Library, I think this is one that last week I said I was going to reply to, and it looks like I didn't, so fail. Okay, I will reply on this. Now, do I remember what I was supposed to reply with? Oh, these are the people that have a bunch of libraries with 3D printers in the Houston area. And I think, no, didn't I forward this to you? It was Ben or John, I thought, that was going to follow up to arrange a discussion, because they wanted to talk partnering and what they could do.
I think your notes would have an indication about
if
that.
I had put a note in there, it would have, but it looks like I didn't. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball on this, guys. Let's just take it from the start. What would be a good next step for them? They're saying that they are interested in getting involved. We had suggested that they reach out to chapters in the area. They tried and got no response. It looks like those guys are inactive. And they do have a map showing where their 3D printing facilities are. They're asking, would you be willing to pass along my information so that I may schedule a Teams meeting to discuss chapter establishment and partnership avenues further? So let's take it from there.
So before they become a chapter, they should get some, as usual, they should get some experience with the art and practice of actually making devices. But it's also true that all of their resources are of interest.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, it almost seems to me like this might warrant a different approach, only because even if they don't have any experience making e-NABLE devices, even if we just had some kind of a program where they opened up their network of library 3D printers to people in the community that may have the necessary skills or have earned those badges, there could still be a good partnership there.
I've got a thought, and it's sort of a multi-pronged approach, but what if we, well, first question, do we have a badge specifically for libraries? I know we have stuff as specific as Scouts.
We did, yeah, unless we got rid of it. Yes, let's just make sure here. Library, e-NABLE Community Library Lead. Okay, so there's one for the individual. We used to have an actual like e-NABLE library chapter or something like that, I thought, but I don't see that anymore.
Yeah, and let's click on this library lead and see what it says.
Link to your library chapter page. So this, as it stands now, is looking for a chapter. They want a screenshot showing your chapter on the chapter map, and then proof to show that you're a leader at your library. So this is based around being a chapter.
I'm curious if we go back to badges and look at the chapters and teams category.
Oh, the category, okay.
So yeah, we scroll down. Right now, so for chapters, we have these 3 badges. We've talked in the past about having sort of community, some sort of a community team or library resource or something like that. An alternative.
This badge here is essentially for an entity, not for an individual. And so I would think that having another badge like that for a library, that could be like a different kind of chapter with different requirements. I think it's inappropriate for a library that's saying our printers are available to support your cause. I don't necessarily care if they've ever made an e-NABLE device. I don't think that's necessary for that role.
Right. And they're not going to be providing a team. They're just going to be providing resources. So it's sort of a community resources team.
And then we can figure out how to add that as a layer on our map eventually to point people to where they can access public printers.
Right. So that was, I was thinking in the direction of having that extra layer. If we create this new badge, and I would put it under chapter, although we might even want to change the term chapter to something a little bit broader. Or it could be under education as well.
Could be. That's where the library lead is.
Right.
But that doesn't, to me, that doesn't get at this aspect of being a sort of a public community resource. That's not necessarily an educational, dimension of it. So I don't know if I want to categorize it that way.
And in terms of the hub, when I tag posts, we have a topic called community, or it's called chapter and teams. And anything that's a team, whether it's an educational group that are just meeting to work on research, or if it's something like these library collectives, I think that would be something that I would tag with that chapter and teams topic.
Okay, so I like the approach. What's our next step with them? Do we give them the meeting that they're asking for and just talk through this with them, or do we try to lay this all out by an email? How do you guys want to handle this?
I think if we have a draft for this new badge, and then we could brainstorm with them, we can say, hey, we've gotten similar requests in the past. You guys are doing wonderful work. As a first step, we have this draft for a badge. What do you think? Would this work for you? And then we can pass it along, and they could be the first ones.
Okay.
Done.
Jeremy, click on their map. Find a map here.
Yep.
Yeah, how cool is that? So it's up a level.
What are you saying, Ben?
It's not just a chapter. They're a network. They're saying here are whatever it is, 12 different libraries that all have 3D printers.
Right. What I'm thinking is, I'm wondering whether they are, after all, librarians. They've already got a map and they've got a network. what about inviting them to get the badge as chapter lead, and then inviting them? We have a number of libraries that we can dig up, but there probably is a directory of 3D printing libraries.
Well, I don't mean to be a stickler for the rules here, John, but as our chapter badge is currently set up, that would be a barrier to them, because to get that chapter badge, they'd have to go and learn how to make devices, and they'd have to establish a presence on social media, and they'd have to do these things that I don't think we really care in their specific case for them to do.
Okay, so what I'm thinking though is that what they might be interested in doing is reaching out to other libraries that are interested in e-NABLE and getting them onto the map they've already started. That's where I'm really trying to get.
Okay,
Ah.
that would be
And
nice.
you know what? Instead of the chapter badge, this e-NABLE community library lead, we could just use this badge for now. It says link to your chapter page on Facebook or website. That would be this map. It's a screenshot of your library chapter listed on the e-NABLE map. I think we could just change the criteria there a little bit. And
What
it
if,
says
I
show
mean,
proof.
first of all, we'd have to check if anybody has claimed that. I don't know if we have anyone with that badge. If we don't,
two users.
Two. Okay. I'm wondering if we shouldn't just change that badge. I don't see a lot of value in having a library badge tied to an individual. I think it should be a badge for the library itself, like the chapter badge. It would be something like e-NABLE Community Library, and that way it would be tied more to the library itself as opposed to some person at the library in this case. Wouldn't that make more sense for the role that we're talking about? You know, it's a lot. I mean, if that particular individual leaves the library and gets replaced with somebody else, that doesn't mean they're going to stop sharing their printers with the public.
You know, I've heard enough of this discussion. I don't mean to sound rude, but to think that we should have discussion with them.
Okay.
Figure out what their appetite and possibilities are, and then see whether they want to help us answer this question using them as model cases, because they're clearly interested. They've got an investment and they have some mapping expertise already.
Sounds good. Why don't I coordinate a meeting? I'll invite me, you, John, Ben, Rick, Ward, you're welcome, but it's not really your area of focus. So unless you tell me, I won't include you. Okay, I'll coordinate a meeting.
You might want to invite Masvi as well, or we can follow up with him, because he'd be the one.
Yeah, Masvi's busy and we don't need him in order to think through what comes next. So leave him out.
That's fair.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'd help you with.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. At least I have a reminder in there for myself, and I will try to get that done. Okay, moving on, Nate's proposal in Lumio. John, why don't you give us a summary here, please?
Well, so Nate has done, there is a budget offered. Go to wherever you just were.
Oh, that was for mine. No, I'm trying to find this post.
All right then.
You know, I heard reference to Nate's proposal, but I took a look and I couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it either. But here, I'll find his email. He must have put it like outside of an Enablio or something. Let me find it.
No, I have a link here, which I will share. It's under the Enablio banner.
It just, oh, I know why, because he set it up as a proposal instead of doing a discussion first. And I pointed that out to him, that we were supposed to have it run for at least a week as a discussion. But he's already got voting going.
But you know, while he has voting going, I don't believe there's actually I haven't found the budget there.
Okay, so he's got proposal, goals, proposed funding, requested phase 4 funding, 3 months retainer at $9,600 at $3,200 per month. It's based on a $20 an hour rate and 40-hour work week.
But where is it though? When I look under Enablio,
yeah, it's weird. I had the same problem. It didn't show up in the list. Oh, you know what it is here? You have to go from, instead of threads, you have to go over to polls, because it's only a proposal. So it shows up here as NIOP phase 4 proposal, but it doesn't show up as a thread. Okay. That's what it was. Okay, so yeah, $9,600 is what is being what they're seeking here.
Right.
So what else do we know, John?
Well, so A, there is a proposal out there. B, typically proposals are meant to be discussed in a town hall meeting, which is the service we're providing as we speak, and be open for discussion for a week before they go up for a vote. What is the closing date on this vote?
As of now, where does it say
August
that?
3rd, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, August 3rd.
And it went up when?
Oh, let me look at the email notification.
Probably went up
Last
last
day or
Wednesday.
July 20th. Yeah, 2 days ago.
Okay, so
Okay,
he
so
set up for
August
2
3rd.
weeks.
So yeah, 2 weeks.
So that's 2 weeks. So
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to be a stickler about it. I was mostly
No,
just.
that's right. I'm
educating
okay
him.
saying if it's 2 weeks and we have now alerted people to the fact that it's there, and as
Yeah.
we know, votes can be changed and the whole thing can be negotiated.
Yeah.
Then here we go. Nate has a proposal, which we should all review and discuss. He's gotten 6 votes positive so far. There are a number of undecided. I guess that just means people who have not done anything yet.
That's right.
Now, I will say that so Nate is an absolute powerhouse. And frankly, Rick, I think that you're taking a good look at what he's done in the past, and you too, Ward, and what we can do in the future this is my concern, to do what we can to have these devices actually be used by the community, usable and used, is my concern. He's done a lot of just mind-bending design work, but he focuses on designing. And at this point, we've done so much designing that usability and revision is something I'd like to be assured is going to be taken part of. This is all fit topic for discussion in the Lumio proposal as well.
Sure.
But since Rick and Ward are here, I would really welcome their input on this and possibly their outreach to Nate. Because Nate is a huge resource. As he points out in this proposal, he is also a disabled person. And with Rick and Ward, it may be that there are ways of sort of working on the longevity and usability of these designs.
And I also have a question about this part here. I noticed that part of his proposal is for a foot design. And I've never been quite clear on where the limitations around lower limb devices exist with regards to generating concern from the FDA and that kind of thing. Are feet devices considered okay in the US as opposed to legs?
I think as long as the people using those devices are out of the US.
So it would still be for other regions kind of a thing. Okay.
Yeah. As far as I know, I mean, the work done in Maine with the Dominican Republic, they're doing testing on foot devices and all that stuff,
Sure.
and there's no issue.
Okay. All right.
Let's create a thread that points to his proposal.
Okay.
You mean a post in the hub?
No, a thread here, because most people
should-
land on the threads page. I wonder if we should just copy his title. So new thread.
The other thing too, I mentioned this in an email when John was working with Nate on looking at proposal ideas. There was a proposal originally, I think it was Nate's last proposal, where he was going to get help with documentation for videos and that kind of stuff, and it all hit the brakes with COVID. So that was something where I think at the time Bob was going to go down to Colorado and they were going to work together. I do think with this, and again, I haven't read the proposal, so this is just off the cuff, but keeping that in mind, there's skill sets that Nate has, and there's things that I think are probably out of his wheelhouse that he would welcome for somebody else to do. And it sounds like from the last proposal, having somebody else help with the documentation, some of the stuff that John's mentioning, perhaps as well, like outreach and having people really test this stuff. If that's outsourced but included in the proposal, that might work pretty well. So just a thought that, Nate doesn't have to actually do it all. He just has to, have somebody helping to manage maybe some of those other aspects.
What
that
was the
makes sense.
time frame of this? 9,600 at 3,200 per month. Okay, so it's a 3-month project. Okay. Well, I guess we all have to jump in on this discussion and
Right.
ask questions, get clarifications as needed, and you've got another week or so to vote.
Good. We have done our duty.
Okay. We are about out of time for today, folks. So let me just ask if anyone else has anything that we didn't get to. Yeah,
I
okay.
do.
See you next week then.
Oh, no,
And
wait.
see you
Oh,
soon,
sorry,
Rick.
that was yes, you do, Rick. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. What do you got?
We have a problem with the chapter maps, Jeremy. You and I don't know if you're getting my emails, but they're still broken. I sent you an entire diagnostic of what's happening.
Okay.
Remember when we put that test in there?
Right.
That time when we were trying to discover how it worked.
Right.
And you had put that test entry. Well, if you delete that, it keeps coming back. So I'm assuming there's a form out there that's persistent. And so right now the chapter map isn't working. I sent you a whole diagnostic of what we're seeing. So it would appear that we.
But
either
did
have
you
to
send the
update-
diagnostic just to me or to Masvi? Because he's really the systems guy on that.
Just to you, because you created the entry and I wanted you to see it to see what you thought. Because I know you're a little better with that than I am with that setup.
No, I think we got to get that over to Masvi because he restored a previous version of that spreadsheet, and if that's not sticking or if the form is
No, it
repopulating
gets wiped out by.
yeah, so he needs to fix that.
Yeah, it's in that form, I think, the form that actually updates the spreadsheet. And that somehow that test thing that was put in when we were testing it, remember that one you put into the awesome spreadsheet? It says test something. That just keeps coming back. And because there's no latitude, longitude, or anything in there, it crashes the map. It takes it about 20 minutes. It works for about 15, 20 minutes. And then it'll either come up as John, you, or it'll come up as somebody changed it. But you didn't. So I think it's coming from the form. The form that they fill out, for the chapter.
So does your email include a link to the form, Rick?
I don't know where
Here, I just found the form. I'm looking at responses on the form to see if I can delete one.
Yeah, I think that's
but it just it lists them. Okay, here's my response. Oh, and it does let me just delete response. Okay, I just deleted my submission from the form. How do we test to see if that
you basically, it looks like what happens is after 15 or 20 minutes, I think they do it to save processor time. So in its spare time, it goes out and it will eventually go and it will wipe out the map and then reload the awesome spreadsheet. I just
manually updated it and
the awesome spreadsheet or the form.
Both. I removed it from the form and then I went into the spreadsheet and deleted it from there. So it should.
The awesome spreadsheet will repopulate what the form has in it.
Right. I know. I just didn't want to
wipes out even if you do a restore. It looks like, from what I can tell, I did a trace. It looks like there's an SQL out there, like a small SQL database in the
who knows how Google Forms work, but I removed it entirely. It's gone from the form. The submission is gone. So
we'll give it about 20 minutes to see if the chapter.
It sounds like there's two things we should do: refresh it in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and also forward your email to Masby and me as well if you want, and we can have him do his magic.
Okay, I will do that. Sorry, guys.
Okay, thanks.
And we're seeing you again in 53 minutes, right, Rick?
Ish.
Okay.
And
Bye, everyone.
one quick reminder. Let's do a very short happy birthday to John.
Oh, happy birthday.
This is a big birthday.
29?
Thank you very much. I am 70 fucking years old.
No, you're not. Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you do not look your age, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I got myself a one wheel, a motorized sort of skateboardy thing with one wheel in the center.
Oh my goodness.
And sadly, I have decided that if my 70-year-old bones were to hit the pavement the wrong way, it might change my life for the worse. So
go with one of those scooters,
I'm afraid that's likely to be where we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody.
No problem. I'm going to stop the stream, but Ben, can you stay for a minute?